Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks in the Lines, coming to you from the West Coast. Josh Lander, joined as always by my guy Nate Weitzer, holding it down on the East Coast, and we are looking at another game tonight, Nate, that has some rest advantage implications. We've got the New Orleans Pelicans hosting those Sacramento Kings, who are off to a pretty nice start, all things considered, playing some really good comp. We'll jump into all that stuff. Gives me a great opportunity to bring up that rest advantage tool we currently have on thelines.com. Make sure you check that out on the homepage under that odds tab and find out exactly who has got those rest advantages, especially in the NBA. Super important. And you can find out who may or may not be playing if some teams are on that second leg of a back-to-back. But make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. And if you still do not have a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com and find those listings, such as what we've got for tonight on Friday night slate. Nate, let's jump into it.
Yeah, the Kings right now are -2.5, up from -2 where it opened. The total is at 221. It's fluctuated up to 222 and then back a little bit. So that's a bit intriguing. We'll talk about that in a minute. Just looking at the other games tonight in the NBA, the Magic are +8 at Raptors, Pacers +9 at Nets, Hornets +6.5 at the Heat. The Clippers are +3 at the Blazers. The Mavs are +2 at the Nuggets. Nikola Jokic questionable in that one, and we tackled that in a separate video. And Cavs +7 at the Lakers. But yeah, I think I'm going to continue attacking the Pelicans as we have all year. Maybe the worst team in the West right now. They have the worst offensive rating in the West. And they really give up a lot that the Kings like to do. They allow the most fast break points per game. Kings scoring the third most. And they're scoring the third fewest paint points per game. And the Kings have struggled in that department for really 3 seasons now. But and when you look at their defense recently, they've gone under in 19 of their last 26 games, and they have been road cover machines, 10 of their last 11 and 5 in a row. We talked about this in other episodes. The Kings tend to start well. Young team that has a bit of dysfunction usually in the middle or towards the end of the season, but they get streaking and they play well. The one thing that scares me is they tend to play up against good competition, right? You talked about getting burned by them all the time because it's like, they've covered in 3 or 4 games against playoff teams, against Portland, Golden State, Utah, and beat Phoenix. And so, of course, they should cover against maybe the worst team in their conference, but that is usually when they let you down. I'm going to count on them succeeding in this matchup just because the Pelicans have been so dreadful without Zion Williamson, really missing Alonzo Ball as well. The offense is really just a lot of Brandon Ingram ISO. They're one of the worst assist teams in the league, just not doing anything for each other. And it's all about Joe Val and Brandon Ingram pulling and playing at a slow pace, which definitely if we're going to go all the way up to 222 on this total, I would hammer that under, considering Pelicans are only scoring about 100 points per game, and the Kings have been playing much better defense since the end of last season, like I mentioned.
Yeah, they've been playing better. I think for the Kings, there's a few things to look at with their trends. They're good on the road against the spread. That's where I'll start. I mean, they're already 2-0 against the spread on the road this year. Obviously, as you mentioned, playing really good comp there. And then last year, they were 21-15 against the spread on the road as well. So still good numbers there. It's that weird little one where they're 2-4 against the spread against when they're away favorites, which obviously doesn't happen very often with the Kings. So that card kind of indicates when they're away favorites, they're playing a pretty bad team. Going 2-4 against a spread is a little bit scary, but it's a nice small one tonight, right? Just 2 points for them rather than anything more around the lines of like 6 to 8 points, right? So which would make me really, really nervous on a backdoor cover from the scrappy Pelicans at the very least. And like you said, it's really about the matchup too, where the Pellies, they're pretty good at defense. I mean, Joe Val's down there. They're not going to give you second chance points. They still are in about the top 10 in rebound percentage, defensive rebound percentage, and allowing second chance points is something that they also don't do. Not that the Kings really have the offensive, the guys to crash the offensive glass like they used to at times. But this year, for me, it's also about, like you said, with the Kings, they usually start out fast and then they regress. And Harrison Barnes is probably an example of that right now with how incredible he's playing, averaging like 27 points a game, right? He's shooting 51.5% from three. But there's some guys on their squad that are actually struggling right now, like De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Halliburton, specifically on offense. These two guys are shooting about 17% for Fox, 28% for Halliburton from three. So they're really struggling, continuing to turn the ball over a lot more than they probably like, about 4.5 turnovers a game for Fox, which leads me to believe that's going to regress back up to the mean, and not exactly where he should be playing. I think he's going to continue to be a subpar 3-point shooter, but not to the tune of 16%. So I think you can expect them to have a little bit more. But either way, the Pellies aren't scoring points. We know that now, and we kind of knew it before the season started. And that pace for them also really drives me to love that under that people are betting up right now. For some reason, I don't know, maybe they think the Pellies are still the Pellies from last year where they were averaging, like 115, giving up 115 as well. It's not this year's Pellies. They're not the same team. And the Kings as well. Yeah, they love to run and gun, and I think they'll be able to do that. But I also realize that the Pellies are going to play at such a slow, choppy pace and make this game kind of ugly looking in a way that like would actually help them. But I still feel good enough about how much better the Kings actually are. And I do think they took a little bit of a step forward. So yeah, I'm going to just smash that under, to your point, that got bet up, and then definitely feel good about the Kings covering on the road as they want to do.
Yeah, Pelicans under in 4 or 5 games this year. And if you think about it, the second half last year, their defensive rating, I think, dropped from 29th to 11th after the All-Star break, just really turning things around on that side of the ball. Like you mentioned, Joval could defend the paint. And those Kings guards, yeah, if they don't start regressing positively towards the mean, then Sacramento's not going to get a ton of points from anywhere else. I mean, Richaun Holmes and Bagley are not necessarily great front court scorers. They're not necessarily going to get theirs against Joval down low. But where they can exploit Valanciunas is in pick and roll, right? The big fellow with the slow feet. De'Aaron Fox just so quick, and again, it goes back to those fast break points that the Pelicans give up and that the Kings produce. I think that will be the key to them getting this win. But I think, I feel even better about the under. We talked about hammering the under on the Pelicans team total in their last game against the Hawks, and that certainly came to fruition. I would look at that again, but I think overall, I don't see these teams getting above maybe 213 as a combined total.
No, and if you do like props in this game specifically, I would definitely target some of those Kings guards. We've seen a couple of guards go off this season against the Pellies already, including Trae Young for 31, which you called the other night, which was beautiful considering how well he's played against them and really how poorly at this point for me tonight specifically the Pellies play on the second leg of that back-to-back. They're already a struggling team that lacks any kind of star power, as we know, especially without Zion. So, yep, feeling all things Kings tonight at the Smoothie King Center in New Orleans. But that is all the time we have for today. Nate, make sure to like and subscribe to that video and page. We got a couple other videos out there for you today on Friday's NBA slate, including a bunch of props for that Dallas-Denver game. And then we also have a player prop specific video for you. So make sure you check those out. And until we see y'all again, happy betting.